Don't lose faith. I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. Stay hungry, stay foolish.
I'd say you look a little young to drive a forklift.
Yes, I am.
It's good to see a younger guy like you, who's creative and ambitious, a little bigger than his britches, and who's got a fresh, exciting point of view.
Phineas and Ferb and Steve Jobs. It's a dynamic duo, guys. This video is the first part in a 3-part series which is going to be talking about the essence of entrepreneurship from a student's perspective. I realized there really wasn't too much about this on the internet, and I decided to put together everything I've learned about entrepreneurship in the last 3 years working as a high school entrepreneur into a 3-part video. So have fun. What kind of a person is this video made for? Essentially, it's for someone who has an idea. If you're in high school, if you're in college, if you're anybody who has an idea and you want to create something that's larger than yourself, you want to create something that can have an impact on somebody or some community in the future, and you don't really know what it is yet, but you're willing to put in the effort, then this video is the perfect place for you. If you stay till the end of the video, I'm also going to be going into what I'm going to do with my organization. I am looking to take a few people in, and this is the best place I thought I could share it. And before we jump into the first part of the 3-part series, if you are running an organization, if you want to run an organization and you see other people in the comment section below talking about what they're doing, feel free to help each other out. I would like this to be a community where all of my subscribers, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe, where all of my subscribers and all of my viewers are continuously giving each other opportunities. Let's make this a community where we can do more than just say things and actually get stuff done. So with that out of the way, let's begin.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the.
Okay, so why should I be the one giving you this information about high school entrepreneurship? So about 3 years ago, when I was 15 years old, I started an organization called SpectraVerse's, which is essentially a recruitment platform for people with disabilities to gain meaningful employment opportunities. Over the last 3 years, I managed to scale my platform to over 5,300 candidates with disabilities. I managed to personally give a job to 73 candidates with disabilities, and I recently got to meet the Prime Minister of India for my organization. Now, I don't mean to say that to brag, but it's important for you to know that what I've done, I've put a lot of effort into, and my whole purpose here is to make sure that you could go on a similar journey.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot box.
So how did I even come up with the idea of SpectraVerse in the first place? It all started when I was actually a volunteer in an organization based in Dehradun, and it was an organization that gave education to children with special needs. And I wasn't there for any other purpose than just making films. I carried my iPhone 4 and I carried a selfie stick along with it, and I was basically running around the foundation and just taking videos of these children in the hopes that I could create a small film that would create awareness about the fact that specially able children in India weren't getting the education that they deserved. And that's the first tip I would give to you. Your goal going into this should not be to create a non-profit, to create a startup, to create this big, huge organization. And it's okay if you do, but the point is, before you become a provider in any field, you have to be a learner. And what I mean by that is, I can't go out there and create a platform for people with different abilities if I'm not aware about how the industry works in itself. You can't find a problem if you're not inside the entire bubble as it is. I can't look at something from the outside and go like, you know what, a problem over there might be that people aren't getting jobs. You can only find a real problem that people are facing once you're actually just a small part of a large puzzle. So my first piece of advice is that before you become an entrepreneur, before you become a provider of a service or a product, you have to be just a spectator, looking at everything that's happening and trying to observe whether you can see a significant problem.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot box.
So if you're at this stage, you've now come across a problem. The problem for me was that children and adults with disabilities, once they'd come out of NGOs, were not able to find meaningful employment opportunities. Now, notice that this is just a problem because your goal should not be to try and immediately come up with a solution. Your goal should now be to try and refine the problem and understand who all are involved in it. So the first step I would say that's really important is interviewing. When I'd gone to launch checks, the first thing that they told us was that you have to be talking to the people that are affected by your problems to truly understand it. And when you're going out and interviewing people, you really have to throw yourself out there. You have to contact different NGOs, you have to contact different companies, and you have to start asking questions. You have to start prodding. And if you're not really that comfortable with throwing yourself out there and asking random people tons of questions you come across, a small exercise that I did at LaunchX was going out in the campus of UPenn and going up to different college students and just asking them questions. And we'd walk up to a student we didn't even know and just start having a conversation with them. And you'll realize that people are a lot less skeptical of a student coming up to them and just asking them questions than an adult. And I'd say that's one of your benefits as a student entrepreneur. If you're 15, 16, 17 years old and you approach someone or you cold mail someone, they'll be a lot more likely to answer your questions than if you were, a 30-year-old bearded adult. Not that beards make you scary, but like, you get the point. No one's going to be intimidated by you. The whole goal of the interviewing process is for you to shift from just a spectator and an observer to an active participant. You want to get involved in the conversation. You want to understand how the process of recruitment for me worked in the entire field of NGOs and companies when it came to people with disabilities. And when you have an interview, it's really important for you not to ask leading questions. You shouldn't be trying to work towards a solution. If I had come up with the idea of a recruitment platform, my interview would have been completely different because I would have had the narrow-minded vision of saying this is the only solution that's possible, and my questions would also be leading. I would be like, would a recruitment platform be a beneficial solution? And in a lot of cases, people will just be like, yeah, that would be a helpful solution. But you're not really helping your case there because you found one possible solution, but not the best solution.
We came from nothing to something, nigga. I don't trust nobody.
Stakeholders means is that these are the people who your product or service is targeted towards. So for SpectraVerse, I quickly realized that my main stakeholders were two. Number one, I had NGOs I was catering towards, and number two is the company. The point of identifying your stakeholders is so that you can channel all of your energy into pitching your service to these definitive people. Because an NGO has a certain set of needs, a company has a certain set of needs. And once you identify that these are the two stakeholders involved, you're going to make sure that your presentation, the pros of your service, the technology involved in your service is catered towards just these two individuals.
I don't trust nobody, good the trick. Nobody call up the gang and they come and get you.
After you've narrowed down the scope of your problem, after you've interviewed people, after you've identified stakeholders, your next goal is to start thinking of a solution and putting together a business plan. What is a business plan? It's basically a document that encompasses the vision for your company, the problem statement for your company, the solution you have for your company, and the milestones you plan on hitting. Because when you're talking to someone, the idea that you have of SpectraVerse, for example, is very different from the idea that I, a first-time listener, has. If you show me this business plan, whether I'm an investor, whether I'm a company, whether I'm an NGO, I very quickly get an idea of the problem you're trying to tackle, your goal with this company, as well as the exact solution you're offering. And I'm going to be linking down my first business plan I created with SpectraVerse, as well as a link for a few exercises that could help you ideate your first business plan. It's called a one-page business plan. It's from a book called The $100 Startup. I'd recommend you read it if you're a high school entrepreneur.
Call up the gang and they come and get you. Call me a river, give you a tissue.
One thing I completely forgot about the planning phase is coming up with the name. Where did I come up with the name SpectraVerse? And there are a lot of ways you can come up with the name for your business, but this is sort of the way I took it. I looked at different companies, different startups, and I noticed that when you look at a company name like Instagram, or you look at Netflix, or you look at YouTube, it was essentially a smash up of two different words. So for example, Instagram was a smash up of instant and telegram, which is a new word which is talking about something that's happening quick, instant, and telegram, which is essentially a dated version of how people used to communicate with each other. Netflix is net as in the internet, and then flicks, which is what people used to call movies back in the day. That makes me sound like such a Gen Z. My idea for SpectraVerse was the exact same. I looked at two words. Number one was spectrum, which was this idea that there are two different ranges and you have different shades between them. So I was trying to connect NGOs at one end of the spectrum to companies. And also in the world of disability, spectrum is sometimes used to describe the autism disorder or several disorders because it's seen as a range from mild to severe. So that's how I associated things with spectrum, and verse as in universe, which was me trying to connect these two different poles together, these NGOs and companies. And for the logo for SpectraVerse, I tried to take inspiration from Indian Sign Language, and the sign for for connection is this. And what I noticed was that when you tilt it like this, you're creating an S. So I'm gonna put the graphic up here, but that was the whole logo behind SpectraVerse.
Cooking up dope with a Uzi. My niggas is savage.
If you want to know what I'm doing with SpectraVerse right now, I am working with 2 high school students and we're trying to make a video series to help people with disabilities upskill themselves so that once we get out of this pandemic, they would be able to try and get themselves a job or an internship. I'm going to be linking a Google form in the description below, and a lot of good information is going to be in the description actually, whether it's name generator, AI, whether it's my business plan, all of that stuff is going to be in the description below. You can go through it, and if you see a position you'd be interested in working at SpectraVerse for, you can apply. I'm only going to be taking 5 people because I would like to have a tight-knit team. So, you know, if you're one of the lucky few, we can jump on an interview and hopefully you could come work at SpectraVerse. So thank you for watching this video, and I'm gonna see you in part 2. Okay, that's enough for the hand gestures for today. Okay, I'm out. Bye.